what all of this does require is a very secure internet. I said before, we may be first in internet freedom, but on the other hand, it's also one of the most, what is, I would argue, the most secure public service in the world. The United States, the infamous National Security Agency, in fact, 3 years ago published something called the National Strategy for Secure Identities in Cyberspace. It was the kind of 12 things, the sine qua nons of internet security. The United States has done 3 of them. When the US published it, we went through it and realized we had done all of them. And it comes down to actually simple technological architectural solutions. As I said, we have this, we have very secure communication. The other side of this is that we have a distributed system, an enterprise service bus. If there are any IT people among you, I don't know. Is anyone out there an IT person? Anybody? No one? How can you do business and not be in IT? All right. Anyway, so this is something which I would say is the kind of service that government should be in, guaranteeing communications, the security and the privacy of communications. It's precisely, I mean, it does go against this kind of standard wisdom that the government is bad, whatever it does. In fact, this is a service that the government enables, and our business community is extremely happy with it. The system has recently been adopted in a government decision by our neighbor, the Finns, which is a major step forward that another country would adopt its neighboring country's computer platform. So I would predict in the future you will see more of these in the future. So, I mean, I would rank my country as one of the great success stories of the post-communist world, precisely because we have chosen this path of innovation in IT and investment in our young people, in their education, making access to various forms of internet education a priority in our country, and the effects are there. They really are there in terms of the kinds of startups that we have in our country, which are threatening all kinds of traditional business models. We have one company that in fact has an alternative model of banking, which maybe here is less important because you don't do too many financial transfers to other countries, but in fact in Europe, where you do this all the time, they're huge expenses, but with new modern IT solutions, you can in fact reduce the cost of doing business across borders tremendously. We have another bunch of very young kids invented a new service that for kind of a combination of eBay and Facebook for engineers, which has basically 10% of the world's mechanical engineers on it, offering solutions. It's called GrabCAD, CADs by which you did in fact design new things in mechanical engineers design, everything from door handles for Porsches to whatever. In any case, the point is that what has enabled all of this is having young people exposed and taught how to use computers in new ways, a willingness to actually encourage people to use IT, and the fact that the government is willing to back this up with secure services. Why doesn't the US do it? I think part of it is because any kind of secure service requires a very strong identity or authentication of identity. It is probably the key issue in computer security, which is how do you know whoever you're talking to is really that person and it's not a dog or it's not a bad person or whatever. Sort of think of it this way: you live in a bad neighborhood and the doorbell rings, and then you press the intercom, and it says and your girlfriend says, "It's me, honey," and you let the person in the door, but it turns out it's someone who's recorded your girlfriend saying, "It's me, honey," and then all of a sudden you're in trouble. Well, that's the problem with most of the problems that we have on the internet, at least on a day-to-day basis, and the problems that companies face, that individuals face, is that you trust someone for being who they are when in fact they're someone else. And that is the issue of identity. And the fundamental issue that needs to be addressed by countries is the authentication of identity. And I would argue you cannot do that unless you actually have a more sophisticated system where everyone has a SIM card, either in a card form or in their phone. And for some reason, the Anglo-Saxon countries of UK, Ireland, United States, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia all find the idea of a ID card in one form or another anathema. Yet, at the same time, if you want to have a secure identity, you're going to have to go this way. The idea which you have here in the United States of buying something by putting your credit card number on the web, and then you put in this thing called a CVC, security code of 3 digits. I mean, that is not a secure identity. I can't believe you guys do this, but in any case, you do. The point is that if you want to move on, you're going to have to find a much better way to secure identity, because that is the rate-limiting step right now. If you cannot trust identities, you cannot develop a fully engaged e-economy, and that will become more and more of a problem in the future. Already, daily we read about identity theft. Daily, we know. Right, yesterday, it turns out that Mrs. Obama's data have been stolen. I mean, you have to move on to something more secure, and that will enable, if you do that, it will enable greater progress. So having a country that is as E-based as we are has multiple side effects. The first one, of course, is transparency and low corruption. Because basically what it comes down to is you can't bribe a computer. I mean, it just doesn't take the envelope. And so if you put as many functions, especially those where there are non-discretionary decisions, where you just have to check the boxes. If you fulfill it, you get what you're supposed to get, whatever. That takes up much of what you do as a citizen or a business dealing with government, and which in corrupt countries, there's always someone you have to hand the envelope to in order to get this thing you should be getting anyway. When you computerize society, you can no longer do that. Or it doesn't work because the computer makes the decision, the person doesn't make the decision. So transparency and low corruption is one of the first side effects of going in this direction. We found it enables all kinds of new solutions when you have trusted identities in a computerized society. We've come up with some pretty wild ones. For example, civil society has become far more engaged in my country. When I was growing up in New Jersey, we had Earth Day. In 1970, I think, was the first Earth Day, and people go and collect garbage. Well, in my country, we also have piles of garbage that are left everywhere. And, there have been cleanups for all these years, which never really amount to much. So finally, two of the founders of Skype invented a program for free. They just thought they'd be nice guys for mobile apps in which you can go around and take pictures of garbage. It sends the GPS coordinates to a central computer. People then can sign up for places nearby to go clean up on a Saturday. A logistics company created IT logistics company developed a program to organize when the garbage trucks go to the right place. And so we had this cleanup, and we basically cleaned up millions of tons of garbage. And that was in Estonia 6 years ago. Today, this thing, which you can look up on the web, which is called Let's Do It World, one word, .org, it has been in 96 countries. 7 to 8 million people last year engaged in cleanups all over the world. It would not have been possible without the IT solution that was really just volunteered by 2 Skype geniuses and then a logistics IT genius. And they just said, well, this is a good idea, let's do it, let's do this program that you can download onto your iPhone. So the power of technology to actually transform societies is not simply something that works in a formerly backward, dingy, former Soviet country that pulls us up by its bootstraps, but in fact has become popular in the United States, Germany, Brazil, they're all doing it too. So what I would say in closing is that if you want to see genuine progress in the future, where more and more of our solutions will be IT-based, invest in young people and their IT education as much as possible. Start early, to start teaching kids to program at an early age. I don't know why in the United States, back when I was young here, you start learning foreign languages in 3rd grade. Now I see that there are no language requirements, and maybe some people start learning foreign languages at age 10. Of course, I realize English is now the worldwide language, but nonetheless, the later you start, the harder it is. Start teaching kids how to program. When they're in 1st, 2nd, or 3rd grade, it will have a huge effect in 15 years, which will come sooner than you think, I can say, as a near 60-year-old. And the other thing is invest in modern technology. Get over the hang-ups of, okay, we don't want an ID card, because in this modern world, unless you have a real identity, you will be stalled. You will not be able to progress with all of these various IT solutions, because ultimately what it comes down to with all the stuff that we are facing today, including the NSA, is that if you don't have a secure identity, someone's going to get into your stuff and steal it or look at it or snoop around, and you really want to feel secure in cyberspace. With that, I think I'll just end. I think that's enough on my part, but it was great to come here. And if there's any message I would say is invest in young people, teach them IT. Thank you.